First of all, I'd like to apologise for not being in person. It's been a rather hectic day. I've been up since 3:30 this morning. Both my flights been cancelled. And then my third flight was delayed. So I'm actually at Heathrow Airport to give you the talk. And it's got a bit of a background music, but hopefully you can all hear me. So thank you very much for coming. And this is what I want to talk about, accessibility. What it's about, why, and how. So first of all, I want to give you a little bit of a background about myself. So I'm profoundly deaf since birth, and I used to wear hearing aids, and then I wear a cochlear implant. And a cochlear implant, I don't know if you know what it is, but it's amazing tech. They drill a hole behind my ear and put a wire into my nickel cochlea, and on the wire it got 22 electrodes, and each electrode emits frequency, and it means that it increased my listening by 50%. So that was 10 years ago. So which means I can hear much more. My confidence grew, and I hear so many new sounds. The first sound I heard that I never heard before, it was when I went to the supermarket. I could hear the noisy tweaking trolley. I know it probably doesn't sound very trivial, but for me, was the renovation in supermarket. All hear the tweaking trolley all over the place. But now I can hear lots of sound, like the rustling of the leaves between walking on the grass. It's amazing. So I also want to talk a bit about my education. So I went through 3 different types of education. First one, from the age of 5 to 7, I went to what you call a partially hearing unit, which is a deaf class in a hearing school. And so in the class, we were all deaf, the people were deaf, but it meant that we were able to integrate with the hearing peers through the activity and break. From the age of 7 to 13, I went to a hearing school, and I was the only deaf people there, and that was really hard. I had to learn to speak, and I made out a lot of the lessons. I could find about 30% because the hearing aid wasn't that great, and I relied on lip reading. So I missed out a lot, and academically I suffered. English, history, French, geography, and so on. But except for math, we written on the board. So I'm still quite good at math, and that's for that reason. And then from the age of 13 to 19, I went to a school for the deaf, and all the people were deaf. And I felt normal. I didn't feel any different. And that is what inclusive me. Nobody feels left out. Nobody feels different. And I've always taken that with me through that journey, even now. And that's what I want to talk about. It's about inclusivity. Regardless of whether you're disabled, your gender, sexual orientation, and so on. Everybody should feel inclusive. Only 2% of top 1 in million web pages are fully accepted. So, including Thoughtworks, we're not quite there yet. We're 97% accessible. We've been working really hard, but we're still not 100%. You've heard that 80-20%. 80% is very easy. The last 20% is really hard. But it shows you that we have a long way to go. I've got one more question. What is the spending power of disabled household in which at least one disabled person in that household? So here's $13 trillion. It's known as the purple dollar, because purple associated with the color disability. So $13 trillion. So if you want to make your digital product inclusive, and someone say, no, we haven't got the time. We want to get the market quickly. Well, if you don't make your digital product adaptable, you're losing out a massive market share of $13 trillion. Something to think about, and that's per year. And I think conservative, because it doesn't include people who are of old age. But I'll go through that in a minute. So that's cool. So I think it's really important to go through the metrics, because when people say we need to make our product accessible, yes, absolutely. It's a nice thing to have. It's the right thing to have. But we need to have metrics. We need to convince the stakeholders, say, look, here are the metrics. There's the reason why we need to make our product accessible. So at least 15% of the population of the world population is disabled. Some countries it's more. For example, in the UK and in America, it's 20%. They're all 24%. So it varies in each country. And of course, I just mentioned about the purple dollar, $13 trillion per year. In UK alone, it's 274 billion pounds per year. That figure comes from the government. We don't make it up. And then, of course, I mentioned about the top 1 million home pages, which are not fully accessible. 2%. Only 2% are fully accessible. And then we have what we call the click-away pound. I don't have the global figure, but I do have the UK figure. What I mean by click-away pound is that people are unable to complete a transaction. So, for example, so click-away pound is where they can't complete the transaction. For example, they need more time, or some are unable to read them out. They can only navigate to the keyboard, but the website doesn't allow that. And therefore, they can't complete the transaction. And therefore, they lose the revenue. And at the moment, it's worth 17.1 billion pounds per year, and it's growing. And then we talked about branding and loyalty. If you see a product, it's accessible, then you tend to buy that product because they like it, and they know someone who's disabled, or they're disabled themselves, and they often tend to buy that product, that brand. But also, it's related to social responsibility. So these are some of the metrics that you could have a conversation with. So I think it's really important, this one. So we are all only temporarily not disabled. So if you're lucky enough to live to a ripe old age, you are very likely to be disabled. It's a fact. You know, as you get older, you lose hearing, your eyesight not great, your mobility is not great, your cognitive not great. But also, there are 3 different types of disability. One is permanent. For example, I'm deaf. I was born deaf, so my disability is permanent. However, you can have a year of deafness, which is temporary. Or you're in a noisy environment like I'm in. I hope you could all hear me. But if you're in a pub or somewhere really noisy, that's situational. And likewise, when you have a broken arm, you don't have a broken arm, or you carry a baby. So there are 3 different types of disability. This is one of my favorite slides. Can I tell you why? So as you know, the total population of people is roughly about 7.7 billion people in the world. And I say there are 15% of the population has classified themselves as disabled, and that's 1.3 billion. But then we also have a number of people who don't think they are disabled. For example, some people are hard of hearing, or they're dyslexic, or their mobility is not great, but they don't see them as disabled. A lot of people who are neurodiverse, they don't see them as disabled. They see superpowers. So that's another group there. And then of course you have friends or ally, you know someone who's disabled, and very often you tend to buy that brand because you know someone. But then of course I mentioned about the 3 different types of disability: permanent, temporary, situational. Everybody is affected. So in fact, when you're developing your product, when you want to make it accessible, you are doing it for the whole population and not just 1 billion. That's really something to think about. So that's where the title comes into. I'm going to go a bit deeper. Building accessibility in for broader value for all. So very often people in the past, and sometimes even now, people very often think about accessibility at the end when they've delivered the product, sort of like an afterthought. The problem is when you do that, it becomes clunky and it becomes difficult. You may have to reopen the code to include accessibility, and that means it will cost, it will take time, cost, and risk. It would be much better to start right at the beginning. So, for example, when you develop a website, start right at the beginning, and if you want to make it accessible, you have to be simple. You need to make sure the structure layout is consistent. Each page, for example, I need to know where that next button is, or the home button. It had to be the same place in each page, and it might be too noisy. The color had to be consistent. Keep it simple. Therefore, it's actually faster, quicker once you've got the framework done. So really, it's cheaper in the long run. So in each stage, you should start thinking about accessibility. And there's another phrase called a shift to the left. So start talking about accessibility with your stakeholder before you start developing your product. In the discovery, think about the customer journey. Include people's disability. Identify their pain points, and so on. Inception, and when you do the requirement analysis, include accessibility in your requirement analysis. When you do the story, make sure you include accessibility and the design, architecture, and coding. And when you do the illustration, when you do the testing, you're going to have automated tools to test your accessibility. However, I will go a bit later, they're not 100% accurate. So eventually you will need real people with disability in order to test your code. And I will explain that a little bit later. So straight to the left, I get in early, embed it, and it becomes the norm. And it'd be like just brushing your teeth. It'd be really simple. And it also risk, it reduces risk, time, and cost. So when you want to start thinking about accessibility, ask yourself a question. Before you actually design a product or actually make a change, ask yourself, when you do not intentionally deliver include, you will unintentionally exclude. I'm one of them. If I don't think about it, I will exclude someone. So try and think the other way. Instead of say, oh, who are the people I need to include? Think the other way. Who are the people I will exclude? Make sure that we include everybody you can think of. It's very hard to think of all the disabilities, but most of them, you need to think about what your product does. And then, where shall I start? For example, on the website. I mean, it can be overwhelming. There's too many things. Well, you can start something small. Perhaps you can focus on the font. Make sure the font is accessible. You've got lots of different fonts, but only a few of them are actually accessible. Excuse me. And then maybe you could think about the color contrast. Don't use pale gray font on a white background. It's very hard to read. Even I can't see it. Use a good contrast. Then images. Don't use animation. Use still images. Try and avoid video if you can, unless you've got a real purpose. And then when you need the images, use alt text to explain what the image is about, especially for those visual impairments. And then talk about the layout, the structure, where I can find the button, where I can find the content of all the tabs, the menu, and so on. Keep them in the same place in every page for consistency. And when I do the control, make sure you can use the mouse and the keyboard. Some people can't use the mouse for lots of reasons. I might want to stroke the cat. I won't be able to use the mouse, so I'll use the keyboard. or I actually got arthritis. And keeping consistency and readability, really important. Keep the language simple. So if there's an error, for example, I don't want to see a 404 page. You have to explain why there's an error and what you have to do afterwards. Click the back button or give it a little description in plain language to understand for everybody to follow. And then of course we have the audio and video. We have to think about the captions. We also have to think about the audio description and so on. So this will probably help you where to start. But by the way, this is not set in stone. It's up to you, but this is probably sort of a guide where you can start. So I don't know if you heard of it called WCAG, and it's actually a recognition that you conform with accessibility. At the moment, most companies use or people use 2.1. There is 2.2, but people focus on 2.1. And there are 3 levels of conformance: A, double A, and triple A. So A is the lowest, the minimum basic requirement, and triple A is the highest. You meet all the requirements. And then, of course, we have 4 design principles of accessibility. I don't hide anything. I see what I see. This is what I do. Make sure it's operatable. When I click the button, it works. When I click something, when I use the keyboard, and so on. And make sure it's understandable. What's that image mean? Should it be there? Should I remove it? The video, should it be there? Should the button should be there? And so on. And of course, it's got to be robust. If it crashes, make sure you handle it and provide some sort of helpful message what to do. Contact details or click the back button and so on. They're the very important design principles. So where do you start? There's a lot of wealth information out there. But what I recommend is those 3. I'm a little bit, this is UK, but it's a really good one called Tiku. It's fantastic. It's got a wealth of information around accessibility courses and give a guideline and everything. It's really, really a good one. I really like it. But of course, we do have the UK government digital service for GTS for sure. Thoughtworks, we've worked with them for over 10 years, and they all make sure that all the public sector websites are accessible. And they're very, very good. If you go to the National Health Service 111, if you go to their website, it's really clear, it's really clean, very simple. I think they do 3 colors. I think it's blue, green, and yellow. It's very simple. And Scope is a charity. I'm actually a trustee for that Scope, so I'm a little bit biased. If you go to their website, again, they leave still images, and their website is 100% accessible. And they only need 4 colors. Really simple, really clean, very understandable colors. And they do provide them guidelines how to they talk about accessibility. There's lots of blogs, articles, and so on about accessibility. They are a very good starting point. There are lots of tools out there, and there are a lot of automated tools. So they're really good. They probably help you the first 80%. You'll never get 100% with those tools. There's no such automated tool that could give you what you could do. You could download it and run it. For example, Pally. You run it and they give you a dashboard and they say, they give you your website, it's 80%, and then there's a few errors, and then explain why there's error. Maybe there's the color contrast or the font or the link is broken and so on, or it's not able to be used by keyboard only. And they explain to you, and then they give you a link to a website to explain how to fix it. Really, really helpful. But we've got Cilium, which is developed by Thoughtworks, but it's in conjunction with Google. That's been around for 10 years. And we've got Google Lightout, which is very popular, and other tools. There are lots of other tools out there, but I like them out there. Again, they're a really good starting point to have a go. So I want to talk about Thoughtworks. And last year, we rebranded our branding, Thoughtworks. And before that, we had so many different colors for our presentation. Too many, thousands. We had different shades of blue, different shades of pink, different shades of green, and so on. So when I was doing my presentation, I made it up, and it wasn't very good. But now we've been told that we're going to only need 9 colors, and they are all acceptable colors, and they're beautiful, really beautiful colors. I like to think that you've seen Thoughtworks. I mean, I've got a blue background with a white, with a pink. It's really beautiful. And incredibly, we come up with amazing images design with just 9 colors, and it made my life so much easier when I do my presentation. And they're beautiful. So again, simplicity, all about simplicity, and it creates lots of opportunities. So for example, if you look at this image here, there's only 9 colors, but you could come up with this wonderful image. I love it. So what I really want to emphasize that no automated tool can guarantee you 100% right. You must test it with real people with disabilities. Don't assume that you could wear a blindfold, pretending that you are blind, or put earplugs, pretending you're deaf. It doesn't work. There are a spectrum of people with disabilities, a spectrum of people with visual impairment, a spectrum of people with autism, a spectrum of people of hearing, and so on. You must test people with disabilities when you want to achieve that final lake, or the last 10%. It's really important. So I don't know if you know, but I say that I will give you a little surprise. This is very personal. I want to give you a demo. What it really means about accessibility. As you all know, that I'm deaf, and I not be able to use the telephone until 2 years ago. I'm actually 57. So for 55 years, I'm not be able to use the telephone like you all, like you do. You should pick up the phone, you take it for granted, you phone everybody, you phone your friend, you phone your family, you phone your colleagues, you book a table, you phone, you make an appointment, and so on. I'm not be able to do that until 2 years ago. So I want to give a demo. Now, very often, live demo doesn't always work, but I hope that this will work. So what I got here is a Google phone, which had a live capture feature embedded. And when I make a phone call, the caption appears in speech to text. It means that I can follow what you've been saying real time, and it's really good, really accurate. So I'm going to give it a go. So this is my phone here, okay? So I'm going to try and call Scott. Right. So I'm going to call Scott. Right. Scott, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Fantastic. So, right. So Scott, how's Manchester?
Very well. It's a wonderful event. We have mixed weather today, bit of sun, bit of rain as usual in Manchester. But we've got a great audience and we've had lots of great questions throughout the day. It's been really good. Really nice to see everyone back again face to face.
Is that wonderful? So that's actually real life, as you can see. And I made my first phone call to one of my sons who lives in Hong Kong. I called him and we chatted for half an hour. Fantastic. First time I've used the phone in my life properly, like everybody else. And now I need the phone all the time. I phone my doctor, my bank manager, the builder, I make appointments, and so on. And people call me. It's just fantastic. I don't feel inclusive. I'm inclusive. And 2 months ago, They add a new feature which translates to different languages, real time. So I'm going to change to French. So I'm going to ask Scott once again to a favor, and you will see it. So I'm going to translate to French. So you can see. Oh, sorry, I'm going to try again. You can see here there's a French English. So I'm going to select French. So Scott, are you able to say something again? Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. I'm glad you're using Google to translate and not relying on my French, which is very bad.
So yeah, so you can see that it's in French. Amazing. How cool is that? And they use other language, Italian, German, and okay, Scott, thanks very much for your help. And so that's a game changer for me. It's also a personal one for me because my partner lives in Paris, and during the pandemic, we can only call each other. And because of a live capture feature, I was able to call her, understand what she's saying. And the pandemic lasted for almost two years. I don't think it would have lasted if it wasn't for that call. So there's a romance in it, if you think about it. There's another thing I really love about it, what I call it frictionless. I didn't have to download an app or anything like that. I just had to press the button on or off, whether I want the caption on or off. And that means that my mother, who hates technology, can use it. My grandmother, and so on. That's important in accessibility. You need to make sure that when you do accessibility, it's very easy to use. Sometimes we all get carried away and think about technology, but we have to think about the public. Can they use it without having to do little tweaks and so on? That's it really. I should hope I've given an overview about accessibility, why we should think about accessibility when we develop our digital product. There's a financial reason, but also there's a moral to it. And I hope I give you a flavour where you can start and where you can find and where you can and when you can learn. So I hope you enjoyed it. So thank